Welcome to the Fellas Podcast, the ultimate Formula One podcast for fans by fans, where we discuss all the happenings in the world of Formula One. Now, let's get into it.
Hey everyone, this is Simon from Benevo, where we are supporting our next Formula One racer out of the United States. Hey, come and join us for our inaugural 2025 sweepstakes, where we're going to be giving away 2 tickets. That's right, 2 tickets to Miami. You get a 2-day pass at a 2025 Formula One Miami Grand Prix for Saturday, May 3rd through the 5th. That's right, you get 3-night stay at a serene hotel from Friday through Monday. And you also get 2 daily breakfasts. It'll be great. Off the track, you'll unwind in a 4-star serene hotel with stunning panoramic views where opulent comforts awaits. Come and join us. The tickets for this sweepstakes are pretty cheap. They start from $10 to $100, and you guys get the opportunity to go to Miami. It's worth over $6,000 for this prize, so please come on, join us. And you will be supporting a good cause. We will be supporting our next Formula One racer. His name is Truly Adams, and you're helping him get to the next level. So, see you in Miami.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Fellas. I think we're going to have a great conversation today about the Austin Grand Prix. But before we start, please like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. Guys, what did you think overall about the race? I think, in my opinion, Ferrari did a good job. But what did you guys think as far as them winning?
Yeah, I think so. I think Ferrari for me was a surprise. But I think the race was good. I've heard some of the drivers say it was uneventful, but maybe for them, but for others it was very eventful. I think it was a good race.
Yeah, Ray, I think it was. Any thoughts?
I think it was a good race, given the fact that, and I give props to Ferrari because they were one of the, if not the only manufacturer that did not bring any upgrades to their car. Right? Everybody else dumped upgrades. And, it's just like, even though there was a performance from Sykes in the sprint race, me personally did not give them any additional notoriety for them being, up there to run. But, joke's on me. They with no upgrades, they really stomped. I think they stomped the field in this one.
Yeah.
I agree. I saw them perform well in the qualifying and the sprint race. And what I saw during that race was Ferrari, after they stopped messing about with each other in the sprint race for the first 5 laps, they went after Lando and Verstappen pretty hard, and they were catching up with them during the sprint race. That was an indication that they were going to be a strong competitor during the race. And that showed when Leclerc took the initial first corner and stole it from Verstappen and Lando. I said to myself, they're not catching him. He is in the zone right now. Ferrari has a strong car. And, it's pretty great to see because the last couple of years they've, been contenders, but they make silly mistakes. And we all know Ferrari has been fumbling here and there for the last couple of seasons. So it's great to see them in top form, knowing that Lewis is coming next year. So, yeah, I am very happy about Ferrari's win today. Very happy for Leclerc as well.
Well, I think Max helped him out tremendously because he was focused so much. Well, it's 2 things: the corner design, and Max focused on pushing Lando off, out, wide. Mm-hmm. Really opened the doors for Charles to just come on through. If it wasn't Max did a little bit more, Carlos would have been through also.
Mm-hmm.
So Ferrari need to really thank Max for doing that because when on approach to the corner, he was close to the apex, and then it's like his focus shifted, and he started. Lando was on the outside, and he decided to open up the turn so that Lando would go wide, and that's what kind of finalized the opening for Charles to walk on through. And
quick question for you though, Ray. I know you said they should thank Verstappen, but no one was catching Ferrari today. I mean, Sainz came in second, and eventually I think he probably would have passed Verstappen and Lando. What you guys think?
So it made it easier for them, right? Because they didn't have to run in dirty air, right? And it was the big talk of the whole thing was tire degradation, right? And it's because he was in clean air, he could have enough appropriate downforce on the tires to help him to execute what he needed to execute on, right? I still think, yes, they had for a car that did not change, have a really strong car, right? Because, Seitz, was caught up in the pack and was still, they were able to push on people, right, to see what's going on. Even when you looked at the sprint race, they had the ability. So, while everybody else was worried about, the tire deck, how severe it was, and stuff like that. So, they had an excellent car for this whole setup, for this whole race, right? And their setup was excellent. So it was, it was only appropriate that, Max gave him the go through and he took it and he kept it. And that was props to them on my part.
But it also shows, watching this, you see the maturity of Max, right? He's a world champion. Of course, he wants to win, but he knows who he's battling. And his focus then became Lando.
Yes.
And that's what it was. He I won't say he was happy with Ferrari, but he was like, I'm not racing them. I'm racing him. And I need to make sure I finish ahead of him. Yeah. And that was his focus. Like he complained a little bit about the car, the tires, but for somebody that complained that he can't attack, he can't brake, he did a very good job against Lando with that.
Yeah. And
that's what he's supposed to do.
You're right. I think that battle, which we will talk about later, was very crucial. I think there's some favoritism there that we need to talk about, but we'll get into that. Ray, what did you think about Mercedes' performance this weekend?
Mercedes who? Dude, Merc who? Right? Because what the heck did they bring to the track, man? It was I don't get it. I really don't get it, because they were doing better before the break, and all of a sudden they're back in the slump, to the point where they had Lewis, when he interviewed him over after the sprint, he said he was looking forward to the next weekend, Mexico. Right? That's how poorly the car was, right? And then it was further than proven in qualifying, where Russell went off. Lando needs to thank Russell for his pole position, right? So the car was loose in the back during the race in the same corner. Same thing, because I was looking at it and I couldn't tell if the car shifted because he hit the inner sausage curbing on there, right? It didn't seem like it, but so he must have been braking into the corner or trying to go back to accelerate, because the back just walked on it. There was not enough downforce to hold the back in place. Right. So, and it sucked that he was, he got beached, but it's just, they were off big time. Right. They were off. And still, George, give George props that, yes, he wrecked the car. So he had to start from pit lane. And I think they were able to make some changes. There's one of the commentators said that, Lewis should have just sucked it up and taken the new power plant and still allow the team to go back and, do some additional work, plus, give him a fresh power plant. But they were off big time.
But you know what? They probably couldn't have done that because they were caught up rebuilding George's car.
Oh, well, true. But that was before that, because he didn't even make it out of Q1. And they were talking about it back then. You know what I'm saying? So, true. Yeah. That was before George total is, yes. That made it more difficult.
Yeah. Even if they had made a plan to go ahead and change out his engine and everything, Russell screwed that all up. They'd probably be like, oh, well, we can't do that now. Right? Yeah. Which leads me to a question. I'm wondering if Lewis spun that car on purpose. I just really think I really think that he was probably trying to hit the wall so he can get the new power plant. The car, to me, I'm glad you guys are saying no, because that makes me feel better. But a little bit to me, it just seemed, he went from 17th to 12th on the first lap. Yeah. And then to spin it like that, man, I was at an event today where it was in Long Beach, California, and we were all watching the race. And soon as there had to be at least 200 people in that brewery. We were in a brewery, about 200 people. And soon as Lewis spun out, 80% of them were on their phones. It was unbelievable how mad everybody was about that. And, it was just, he still has a strong following here in the United States.
Yes,
and it was a little disappointing, but then now it was Lando and Verstappen. Everybody was watching. So Mercedes had a really bad weekend. I don't know what they were doing on their break, doing what Sergio was doing a few months ago, smoking weed. I don't know what they were doing, but they just.
I'll say this: it's not really that surprising, because a few races back we were saying, which was true, the McLaren was the most consistent car, right? Red Bull had their issue after they had to get rid of that piece of technology or whatever they had on their car, that the performance dropped. But even before then, Mercedes would be good in qualifying, they're not good in the race. Ferrari, same thing, would be good here and they're not good here. So it looks like, for me, I'm happy for Ferrari. This is their first 1-2 since 2006, when Michael Schumacher and Barrichello did it. Michael and Massa did it. I'm happy for them for that, but if they do it again next week, then great. But if not, the pattern would be they're going to slump, and then you're going to hear, I don't know what happened to the car. I don't know. It's good. Those teams don't have their cars sorted out, and that's carrying on. Ferrari got a handle on it at this race, but Red Bull has sorted back out their car, it seems, and it seems to be more consistent. And the McLaren is still more consistent. And if you look at it, the McLaren should have won. It was fast enough, but the Ferrari, they got it. Their cars were switched on this weekend.
Well, they got the break, right? Because Max pushed Lando off, he was caught behind. So there's, it's a whole different race when you're in the train than when you're out in free air, right?
Right.
And Charles did the right thing. He gapped the field, right?
Right.
So he took advantage of free air, gapped the field. He was able to manage his tires. So, props to him for doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, McLaren with Max, it was a hard road to go for Lando, right? Because even the penalty he received towards the end, right? When he interviewed Oscar Piastri after the race, Piastri had a similar situation I think before in the same weekend, and he got penalized for it, and he was on the inside. As opposed to Max being on the inside. Yeah. So again, I'm not sure if there's some favoritism going on there or not, but it's not. And he said the same thing. They all said it's not consistency, right? It's true that when they did the replay back, Oscar didn't get into the corner quick enough because Max just rolled the car some more, right? When they got in. But I think what should have happened, and I agree with the commentators, that they should have, if the team had decided that they weren't going to give it back, they needed to tell Lando that he needs to go pedal to the metal, right? Because they knew it was potential as a 5-second penalty. Right. So, which, I don't recall it coming over the radio because he was 4 points something ahead of him. You needed to tell him, hey, you need to go pedal to the metal because there's going to be a potential, 5 seconds. You need to move off of this.
I believe they did. I believe they did. I believe they did. If I thought about it right after it happened, I was like, well, if this is going to be a controversy, he needs to go ahead and get 5 seconds. And these guys are pros on looking at telemetry all day. I'm hoping they did. If they didn't, then there's something wrong there.
I think it's understood. Right. If it's in doubt, it's understood. Push.
Push it hard. And that's why Red Bull was telling Verstappen to push.
Right. All right. Can I jump in for a minute? Okay.
Sure.
So you're the driver. You're in the heat of the moment, right? He doesn't have the ability for replay. It happens in a couple seconds, right? And it was even commented on the commentators that they should have let him know, because he came back with after the race. They asked him, or he was surprised that they didn't get it, right? So they should have told him in communicating that, we're gonna roll the dice, but you need to put a gap at least 5 seconds between you and Max.
Right.
And that didn't come across the radio, because if just think about it, something as crucial as that in an event would be telecast. It would not be kept in the back burner. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that was their thing.
The one thing that is puzzling to me then, if they did not tell him, was I heard Lando state that, there shouldn't be a penalty there because Verstappen came out of the balance as well. And that was in my mind. I'm like, well, if Verstappen was out of bounds and they're both out of bounds, should there be a penalty? That means he pushed him out of bounds. He purposely pushed him out of bounds if both of them are out of bounds, correct? Or there was no room if he didn't go beyond out of bounds and beyond Verstappen, there would have been a crash. So in my opinion, there shouldn't have been a penalty. However, when Lando said that, in my mind, he knew that there's a penalty possibly coming, floor to the metal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll say it this way. They know how it's not something new that you can get a ruling from the stewards that's not in your favor, right? Especially when you're coming off track. Yes, we saw Max come off. Lando may not have been able to see that Max's car was also off, but
he stated it.
Huh? Well,
he stated it.
All of his car, all of it was off of the track as well. But Max's car was ahead of his when that happened, right? So here's my thing. If you're the one and you're trying to push it, it's understood. Push. Don't leave it to the stewards to decide your fate. Push as hard as you can to stretch it out. That if they come back against you, right, 5 seconds, you're 6 seconds down the road. The question is, did he have enough time to do that?
So I'll say this also. You have to take into consideration that at that point his tires were used up, right, a bit because of all the attempts that he had before, right? Mm-hmm. So this is where, again, there's a thing called mental fatigue when you're driving. And this is where the team comes into play and say, hey, bringing this to your attention, you need to put your focus on this. You need to move, you need to go, as they used to say that, Lewis, hammer time. You need to push it right now. And that's what he needed from them to say, hey, because he did it, yes, naturally by himself. But if they'd have made it a point to say, hey, we need to make sure we have that gap just in case it doesn't go our way, then he would have then focused on it and then be able to then figure out how he's going to muscle up and manage the car to come out, because his back was sliding around too, right? And his front was going because, whenever he touched, got close to Max and they did a high-speed turn through the high-speed S's, right? He didn't have enough downforce to keep that wheel, down on the ground, right? So there was some slippage that happened there causing, degradation, right? Because, there was not enough air coming over the front wing. So there was, he got a point where his tires were being used up, even though Max's were older, and Max was, using up, but still, I think that's the only, if I had to pick a point, I think that's where they kind of fell back and said, hey, it would have been nice if they just came out and say, hey, we just need to cover this just in case it doesn't go our way. We need a 5-second gap, because another commentator said that they looked at some of the different cameras that you could see and saw that Max was within millimeters with one of the wheels at all times. Right. So, so take it for instance, he got all 3 wheels off, but one was still on. So he's still on track. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. So,
they know how to play the rules,
Yeah.
One of the things, one of the, I believe it was Will Buxton said it, and James Hinchcliffe didn't agree with him with that. And I can understand it, that Will Buxton said that he's starting to wonder if Lando has that killer instinct, like that, that ruthlessness to really push, because he was like, he's doing the same type of maneuver on Max. You have to pull something new out of the bag. You need to force him. Who's good at forcing people to do stuff? Lewis is good at doing that. Fernando is good at doing that. Max is good at doing that. Russell. They're more seasoned drivers. So that's part of it. But we're gonna find out, because I think the constructors is McLaren's to lose, and I think they do have a chance of closing down on the drivers, but I don't think they'll get the drivers though.
So it's funny you should say that. I believe that Lando has that killer instinct. Anybody else except Verstappen. Right now, they're too close. Right now, he doesn't see him as an enemy. You see him as a competitor. And the greats see their competitors as enemies, and you got to have that killer instinct, right? The great, it doesn't matter what sport. The greats know we'll be friends after we retire. We ain't gonna be friends right now. Right? And I think if it's anybody else, in front of Lando, he's going to have that killer instinct. I think right now they're just too close.
Right.
They're just too friendly.
Right.
And I thought it was going to get damaged earlier on in the year based on that crash that they had.
Right.
I think they need to have a major crash where they're both out before Lando gets it.
Yeah.
Gets it. He has to get it. He has to realize, y'all could be best friends when you retire. You could be best friends, at the end of the season, during the off season. But right now, during the season, that's your enemy, dude.
Yeah. So we'll see. I agree with that. We see it clearer within a team.
Mm-hmm.
The two drivers that pecking order starts, and it seems that McLaren is trying to. We've seen they try to make their drivers more civil, in this case, and it seems like Oscar is kind of eased back a little bit. It seems to me after this race to kind of support Lando in a way.
Yeah, I hope they haven't killed his killer instinct because that kid got it.
No, I don't.
And remember, Piastri's, to me, he should be rivaling Verstappen and Lando and Lewis next year, all four.
Mm-hmm.
So they said the car was off. But
off.
They said the car wasn't on. They said that they were surprised where they finished. That's where I said George gifted Lando the pole because they said the car was a bit of a handful this weekend.
Yeah, McLaren you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yes, McLaren said the car was a bit of a handful.
So with that being said, I'm just going to end the Lando and Verstappen conversation on this question to you guys. I believe that there's some favoritism going on with Red Bull or Verstappen, I believe, because I'm just looking at that penalty that Lando got, and I just thought it was bogus, in my opinion. And maybe I'm biased, right? Maybe I'm biased, but I just, over the last couple of seasons, it's like they want Verstappen to win. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that's a common point of view in Formula One at different times over the years. There's always that point of view where you'll see something where, but they did it and nothing happened, but then he did it and something happened. So where consistency has always been the issue, that they're trying to get to, where they have different stewards at each race. Some people are saying maybe you need the same ones that's traveling through, each race so you can get some consistency. But then that brings up another argument that if that person's ruling against you, they may consistently keep ruling against, kind of thing. It's a hard one. Yeah, I think, Max does have a little bit of Teflon on him. They're more lenient with him. Whether that's because it's him or Christian or the rest of the team and, how they do things. But, yeah, I do think, yes, there are times where it seems it'll go his way.
Well, so I would say
scared to ask Ray this question.
I'll say this. During the qualifying, James Hinchcliffe identified where he seemed quite certain that Max had went off out of track limits, and he did not get penalized for it because I remember they talked about the other topics, and then he kind of touched on it and let it go. It's like, it's interesting that Max didn't get called on that, right? And it's just like, it's I would tend to agree. I would agree with what you're saying, that I think, Max has some sort of favoritism in his way, and the Red Bull team. Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
Well, that was a calm take by you, Ray. I thought he was going to go a little. Anyway, what do you guys think about the rookies? What do you think about the rookies?
Great show.
Pinto is a hothead. No, let me say he's a very passionate driver, right? And it's Carlo Pinto.
Yeah.
Right. And I think he is. He's going to develop pretty well. I think he might be Alonso too in the future, right? Because he's not afraid. I said neither rookie were afraid to take on the elder of the track,
The elder statesman, even Lawson,
yeah, and Lawson had a talking to by Alonso for what he did early in the weekend, but it did, I think, and as they say, I agree with it. But the commentators, they said, Lawson, I brushed it off and just like, okay, that was this, and now this is now, and I got a race, right? And I saw, some tit for tatting there for a while, and but they didn't they didn't let his stature, awestruck them. They went to work, right? They just saw him as a driver. Yes, he has more talent. He's been around for a while, but they try to figure out the way to get around him. And I think, I think they did well. I think they did well.
Yeah. And he did a great. He did great. They did good jobs. And here's the thing about it. Yeah, he went up Liam with Fernando, but you have to stand your ground, which he did. And in that arena, that's who, in the end, Fernando will respect him for that, because you can't let these people slap you around and intimidate you, and I always go back to, even though he was older, for Juan Pablo and Michael Schumacher, when we're talking about favoritism during that Ferrari era, Michael was the favorite. There were a lot of things he did to people that they could not do to him. The stewards would get you. And I reveled in the time in Brazil when Juan Pablo ran him off the track with authority, right? And there was nothing the stewards could do about it. And Michael respected him after that. Michael, even in the post-race press conference, you could see he was shaking because no one had done that to him before, And Juan Pablo was like, and they asked him, oh, well, you came real close to Michael. I gave him room. He gave him that. Not a whole lot.
Enemy. Right. Enemy.
That's what these rookies have to do, and that's what Liam was doing. I'm not jumping out of your way. I'm not like he said, I still have a lot of respect for him, but on track, yeah, I'm out here fighting for mine too. So you're a target. I got to get you out of my way. Well done.
Absolutely. And Alonso talking to him, to me, is like, slap him on the butt and say good race and let's call it a day. You know what I'm saying? Say, all right, rookie, good race. And call it a day. I mean, take your ego out of it a little bit and say, hey, this is good for Formula One, right? All the, going back and forth, that's good. I mean, even when in the sprint race, when Leclerc and Sainz were going at it, it was exciting. These are teammates. Everyone was at the edge of their seat because they went back and forth for at least 4 times. So it was good. It's good for racing, man. Let them, stop crying.
You mentioned about respect and showing. The person that's not getting the respect is Yuki, right? Because Red Bull hasn't said they wanted him in their car seat, right? Liam is, his losses going, after the number 1 seat for, where Sergio sits, right? And so is Colapinto. Has been mentioned that possibly, he could be a contender, but nobody is mentioning Yuki. And to the fact that they were commenting that Honda is petitioning Red Bull to say give Yuki a shot.
Right, and they should.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
You want 2 hot heads in your team, no?
Well, that was what I was thinking, because I've seen Yuki. He is a hothead. So, you have to be, if you're doing it on the track and you're more measured out there, I think it's better for you, out there. So that's the only drawback. But the Honda leverage on it, yeah, that might get him that shot. I mean, he's been driving well.
Yes, he's been, performing. He outperformed Daniel and all that stuff. So, he should be the one that everybody's talking about. Nobody's talked. It's like they overlooked him. You know what I'm saying? They almost, treat him like a third-class citizen.
I mean, Liam got him today, but that's one race. So we'll see. We'll have to see how the rest goes. But yeah, Yuki's been driving really, really well.
So with that being said, fellas, what are your predictions for Mexico?
Mexico. Let me see. Mexico. You go first. I'm looking at something.
I'm thinking I'm going to give Ferrari the benefit of the doubt. McLaren is always going to be there. And it looks like Red Bull, at least one of their cars, is pretty consistent right now. So I don't know what's going on with Mercedes. So I have to take them out of my top 3 at this point. So it's probably going to go with McLaren again, Ferrari, and then Red Bull. I don't really think Verstappen's going to win another race, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. He might win the overall season. He might win the championship. I just think Ferrari and McLaren right now are just too good as far as setup is concerned, and I think one or two of them are going to win. So I'm going to give the nod because Ferrari won this week and it looks so strong to Ferrari, and I think McLaren is going to be second, and possibly Verstappen is going to be third. That's my prediction.
Okay. What do you say, Ray?
It's gonna be maybe a Ferrari, a McLaren, and Redbull. I think right now, and the wild card is Mercedes because they might figure it out for the next one, but it's not a consistent one. So the wild card is Mercedes, right? But I don't know. I think does Lewis like that track? If they get their stuff together, they might show up. But I think it's definitely, and I'll say this. I'll take a step back. Ferrari's a wild card also. So I could say, it's going to be a McLaren and a Red Bull, and you can interchange either Ferrari or Mercedes in the mix. That's where I'm at. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
I think it's going to be Max win, Lando second, Piastri third.
Okay, that's possible.
I'm not sold on Ferrari yet.
Okay.
So you said Max
Lando, for the win. Max for the win. Lando second. Piastri third. The only wild card. I'm sorry. The only wild card I could think is if this lights a fire under Sergio because they're going to Mexico. He could be the wild card.
Good point. I forgot that he's from there.
Yeah.
Hometown. But if he sucks at his hometown, he's out next year. If he doesn't come in, top 5, I think he's done.
Well, let's look at this. Oh, he DNF'd last year. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's what I would see. I would think it. I think it's going to be Max. Max is not done. He would have gotten the pole at Coda if it wasn't for George.
You can argue that.
Huh?
You can argue that, but Sace had a better first sector than he did before the yellow flag came out.
That is true. We could argue that, but I think it's going to be Max. I think and like I always said, I'm not a Max fan, but I respect his craft. Man, he's good.
Oh yeah,
he's good.
Yeah, what he did for Lando for 5 laps was was skill, and Lando had a faster car, and he just
couldn't get
every right turn except for that last one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today on our episode of the Austin Grand Prix. I think it was a fun conversation. Please like, subscribe, and share, and also listen for an opportunity to go to the Formula One 2025 Miami Grand Prix. Stay tuned.
Take care, everybody.
Yep.